chapter 16, verse 9. Okay. Oh, right. That is about the devas and asuras. What the asuras say. Okay. Because they are not intelligent, they accept these beliefs, losing the consciousness of the true self. On that basis, they develop horrible activities that unnecessarily cause damage to the world. Ugra karma means
So,
criminal.
so it's not a different species. It's anybody who could be.
No, 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 no. Actually, okay. According to the Puranas, the tradition, devas and asuras are also, they're levels of consciousness. Okay, so the in Satya Yuga they were on different planets. In Treta Yuga they are on the same planet but different kingdoms. In Dwapara Yuga they are in the same families. And in Kali Yuga they are in the same person.
Okay, so it's just it has to do with consciousness.
Consciousness, yes. The species, the DNA is different. That's, for example, yeah. Sometimes it's a bit confusing because in the stories in the shastras we find sometimes the definition used for species, or groups of
Yeah.
yeah, but uh, that's because usually groups, species like the rakshasas are traditionally following the asura culture, the asura mentality. So that's why the definition can be misapplied. It's a bit like the concept of Atman. We know the Atman is a soul, but sometimes, even in Bhagavad Gita, the word Atman is used to indicate the mind, for example. So still, let's say, for example, Prahlad. Prahlad is a very famous person. He's one of the 12 Mahajanas. Okay.
Right.
And he is, extremely famous as a great Vaishnava, devotee of Vishnu, and so on. But still, he was born in a dynasty of daityas, of asuras. So sometimes he's called an
Yeah.
asura Raj, because he's the king of the asuras. you know, but he's not an asura himself. It's in the same way, sometimes the devas are called amara, immortal. This is not exactly true. Their being immortal is, what to say, relative to the lifespan of human beings. Because even Brahma is not immortal. So when, they speak about devas being immortal, it's like, okay, in the material world, everything is mortal. Even the avatars. Even the avatars have a beginning and an end. Appearance and disappearance. So when we say immortal, it's just like, not really. So when we say asuras, it's really about the consciousness. And this, in fact, as Krishna is explaining here, he's giving the description. Now, Rakshasa is a species. So, for example, we have, Ravana and Vibhishana. They're both Rakshasas.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, but as far as I understand,
Yeah.
Rakshas was the Sanskriti which Ravan established, and Yaksha was the Sanskriti that Kuber established. So it was
Yes,
a
yes,
Sanskriti, not, I mean, they were brothers, but they had two different cultures,
yeah,
Rakshas and
yeah.
Yaksha. So it's not the DNA or species, but it's
It's
the
you see,
way
you
of
see,
life.
you see. It's a bit funny because the Rakshasas and Yakshas have the power to manipulate the DNA. They have the power to manipulate the atoms of matter.
So who are those people today?
Oh, they are not walking on Main Street.
No,
Of course not. You know, these are
because
actually
because
Rakshasas and Yakshas are extremely powerful people.
right. So Sri Lanka was the Rakshas Sanskriti and
Yeah.
Mexico was Yaksha Sanskriti. But those are just Sri Lankans and Mexicans people.
No, 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 no. Okay. The Yakshas and Rakshasas were the rulers of the people.
Yeah.
You know, the not all the inhabitants of Lanka were Rakshasas. You know, the Rakshasas were the bosses, the lords. Like in Sumer, Sumer, Assyria. You know Assyria, right? It's a nation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the name Assyria is coming from Ashur. And Asur was the name of the god they worshipped. So lots of these populations were actually worshipping rakshasas, asuras, of various kinds, yakshas, nagas, and but it's not that the population was entirely made of, these powerful entities. The population was just like cattle to them. In
Hmm.
fact, there is, an expression. This Untermenschen means subhuman, is the translation of the Hebrew goim. Goim means human cattle
Hmm.
and refers to the slaves, to normal general population. Sometimes these asuras were actually intermixing, and having a hybrid descendants with humans. But at some point during these last thousands of years, they became less, visible, but they're still there. They're
Hmm.
definitely still there. They became less visible, and they cannot do much openly, you know. But they've definitely been behind the scenes. And there is a lot, stories from all over the world. And these, UFO craze, ancient alien craze that is going around, is actually a way to, get us used to the idea that the gods are evil. So they are planning a comeback. They are trying to get the complete power
From where?
from behind the doors of power.
But you're saying that they can manipulate DNA. Those are people that
Of
can
course, I
manipulate.
mean that's what all the shastras say, all the Puranas, and Itihasa
So there are people in the world today who can do that.
they're not showing up. You cannot see them. And even if you could see them, they can change, they can take any shape. You remember, the story of, the Ramayana, Puranas, for example, Bhutana took a very, beautiful form. Surpanaka also took a very beautiful form.
Yeah, but that's also it's a siddhi that anyone can have potentially, technically.
Yes, of course, of course.
Any advanced yogi can have that siddhi.
Yes, exactly. And this is why I'm saying that these people culturally have these kind of powers because
And to get that power, they have to do a lot of
not really,
austerity.
not really. Patanjali says it can also come by birth. It's something they can also get by birth. Some people have more psychic, even ordinary human, they have more psychic powers than other people. It's not necessarily something in the DNA, although, geneticists are not totally clear about what's in the human DNA. Now they tell me that they stopped using the expression garbage DNA, garbage stuff in the DNA because
Wait, Mataji, you
yeah,
cut out for a second. So can you repeat your last sentence?
yeah, geneticists, the genetic engineering, they're also not totally clear, in their understanding of the genes, the genetic material. Until recently, they were using the expression, genetic garbage to indicate whatever genes they didn't understand, and they couldn't explain what they were doing, so they were calling them garbage. Now, I heard that now they stopped doing that because that is really, shameful. But this is the approach of the mainstream science. Anything that the mainstream science doesn't understand, they just label it as garbage or pseudoscience or whatever. That's not very scientific. But the point is that, we have from, all times, from all cultures, we have stories of people, whatever species they could be. They're anyway humanoid species. The Shastras say there are 400,000 human species. And, in that, we can definitely put the rakshasas and the yakshas and the nagas. Because they're levels of consciousness, levels of, personal evolution, understanding. The yoga siddhis can be developed. Now, the yoga siddhis can be developed in different manners. Patanjali explains, sometimes with, with birth, from birth, sometimes with herbs, or mantras, or meditation, yoga practice, booms, or whatever. It's something that can be achieved by human beings, but there are some human species, if we want to call them species, that actually have a higher level of consciousness, higher level of power. And we know that the idea of species regarding humans is blurred because the mainstream academic community is still stuck on the taxonomy system started by Linnaeus. And that's stupid because animals of different species cannot have a fertile progeny. Like, for example, you take a horse and a donkey, they are two different species, they can, they're fertile, but their progeny is a mule, is not going to be able to have progeny. Most hybrids do not make seeds in plants. But regarding human species, we know that the Neanderthals and the Nisovans and all the other different species interacted with Cro-Magnon and so-called Homo sapiens, and and still we have genes from all of them. So they are not different species. We can say the different races, and we know that different races can definitely interbreed and have progeny that is also fertile. So, the rakshasas, yakshas, nagas, historically speaking, they had children with humans, and these were called demigods, half gods. Because
So they were infertile?
So
their children were infertile?
No, they are totally fertile. Yeah. So it's not different species per se, it's different races, different. The classification in the Vedic system is fundamentally different from the taxonomy of mainstream academics. Because the mainstream academics go by DNA, and the Vedic classification of species is by levels of consciousness. That's why you remember we were discussing about the definition of women in the Shastra, in the Vedic system. Women are not considered women because of their body. They're considered women because of their level of consciousness.
Oh.
So
then.
Yeah. So you are.
So then all the trans people can be women.
Yeah, exactly. And we have stories from the Puranas like Ila. What was her name again? Su something. That the story is that he went into the forest where Shiva was enjoying with Parvati, and he got this curse that he himself and all his group, his retinue, would switch, from man to woman and from woman to man. Now and then they would just be totally trans. Up and down, and left and right, and let's say Shikandi in the Mahabharata. Shikandi was a woman. Okay. She didn't have to take a new birth to become Shikandi. Her name before was Amba. She was one of the three princesses that were, taken by Bhishma from the Swayamvar. And Ambika, Ambalika, and Amba was, thinking that Bhishma was going to marry them, but when she learned that she would have to marry Bhishma's nephew, she was not happy at all, so she left. And Bhishma said, okay, no problem, you can go back, I'm not going to force you to marry anyone. So she went back home to the father. Father said, this is a disgrace. you have already chosen a husband, why you're coming back? So then she went to another, man that she liked before the Swayamvar, and that man said, oh, so I have a second choice now, don't come to me. You already, everybody saw that you went away with Bhishma. How can I accept you as a wife? So Amba was so, angry that she went to Drupada, Drishtadyumna's father, Draupadi's father. She went to Drupada and she said, she told her all the story with Bhishma and everything. So Drupada adopted her, and they had a fire sacrifice, all the samskaras, so that she was practically considered a new person, and she took the name of Shikhandi, and she presented herself as a man. So when on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Shikhandi was in front of Bhishma and trying to shoot him, Bhishma refused to fight because he said, I'm not going to fight against a woman. And that, of course, made Shikhandi even angrier because Bhishma was not exactly, very bright with women. So, in the same way, the Sri Dharma in the Varnashama Dharma applies to those women who, are happy to be a Grihamedini, just wives and mothers and, take care of the family. It was not a bad life, because they were never mistreated. They were respected and worshipped. They have, a lot of power in the family. They took care of everyone, but they had the power to do that. So what they were doing, especially they were wealthy, they were just playing with the kids and enjoying life and having nice food, nice clothing, ornaments, and composing poetry, stuff like that, because they had also lots of servants. But then we had the Brahmavadini who didn't marry because they were not interested in family. Some of them married, but they married, rishis. They were rishikas. There are, I don't remember, I think 37 rishikas who wrote the rigs in the Veda Samhitas. 37 famous rishikas. So they didn't have to do the Sri Dharma because they were not women. And the same with the asuras. The same with it's a level of consciousness, a type of mentality. It's like the Shudra. Shudra is not by the DNA. It's not by birth. When the Gita is talking about women and Shudras, what do you think? Shudra is a DNA, it's genetic. No, of course not. So even the species are not classified genetically speaking. So it's a totally different approach on science. Many people, especially these ancient alien, modern researchers, don't understand that. They think that the Brahmastra was a nuclear weapon. It was not. It was definitely not. Lots of people are copying fake quotes that were invented by people, what was that name again? This guy in the 1970s. I wrote that in my book, Gods or Aliens, because that's interesting. That I made all the connection, the descendants from the Yakshas that are described in the Shastra as having their headquarters north of the Himalayas, in the Caucasus, practically speaking, on that side of the mountain, the side of the Himalayas that is going north towards the Caucasus. And they were living there, and you remember Dhruva, right? The story of Dhruva. His brother Uttama had been killed by the Yakshas. So Dhruva went there and engaged war against the Yakshas. The Yakshas had lots of these, mystic, magic powers, is whatever you want to call them. But Dhruva also, was qualified and was equally qualified. So he kept his stand, stood his ground, and, was defeating the Yakshas. So there is, this is not a genetic thing. It can take a long time to get to this level of understanding, but what to say, modern science is getting there. It's a matter of knowledge and practice, an application of knowledge. It's not, anyone can be trained to do that. Of course, someone who is a perfect idiot will not get so much success so quickly. But otherwise, okay. We had a nice elaboration on the asuras here. I think it's 4 o'clock my time.
Yeah.